All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Thursday the 20th of March 2025. We have a few apologies, but we'll go through the opening first. In accordance with the Weddin Shire Council's Code of Meeting Practice, this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of audio-visual live streaming via Council's website and Facebook page. Those in attendance are asked to refrain from making any defamatory statements and comply with all relevant Weddin Shire Council codes, policies and procedures at all times. Weddin Shire Council would also like to acknowledge Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land we meet on. Weddin Shire Council would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to any other Aboriginal Australians who are present today or watching. We honour our service personnel who have also sacrificed their lives in defence of our freedom, our peace and our prosperity. We acknowledge all of our frontline workers and our volunteers who each day provide our essential and non-essential services, especially those within our Weddin Shire local government area. We move on to attendances and applications for leave. We have an application to leave from Councillor Gorman. Is that the only one we've received? The rest do apologies?
Through you, Mr Mayor, they also leave of application. Request for application.
So all three councillors,
yep,
from Councillor Gorman, Councillor McGolney and Councillor Parlett, have asked for a leave of absence. We do them separately or together? Can we do them in a bulk?
Let's do it in a bulk.
Do in a bulk. They have a mover and a seconder to accept that leave of absence. Yeah, Councillor Macon and second by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much. All those in favour of accepting that?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you very much. So that's it. So therefore we don't have any apologies because of that. We have no requests for leaves of absence or anything from anyone else?
No, just for those three.
Just those three, yeah. Next we move on to 5, confirmation of minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting on the 20th of February, 2025. We have been moving a second for that, councillors. Yeah, Councillor White and Councillor Macon. Councillor Liddon, yes.
I've got a problem.
Yes, Councillor.
We're compounding errors from the December meeting.
Okay, yeah.
And I pointed out at the February meeting that the December minutes were wrong.
Yeah.
So I can only oppose the minutes because it's just going on and on.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor. I did ask you on that meeting to explain what your reasons, your issue was with the minutes, and you just said, they're all wrong. So you did have an opportunity to then say what particular area of the minutes were wrong. So the minutes are supposed to be a true and accurate representation of the meeting. I've sat and gone back through the recordings. I still feel they are, and as obviously the other councillors also voted that they were a true and accurate representation. So I take it on board exactly what you're saying, councillor, but I think it was already voted upon that they were true and accurate. So.
And through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Never did vote against it, so that is acknowledged.
Yeah, it's acknowledged. Yeah. So therefore we have got a mover and a seconder to vote on these particular minutes from on February the 20th. So all those in favour? Thank you. Raise your hands. All those against?
Against.
Again. Thank you, Councillor Liddon. We'll record that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Next we move on to 6, disclosures of interest.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is none.
No disclosures of interest for this meeting. Thank you. Next 7, public forums. There's no public forum.
No. Mr Mayor.
Next we move on to 8, which is a mayoral report and mayoral minute. I take it, I think we don't need anyone because it's a mayoral report. And if everyone's read the report, it's on the Centrop, or I call it Centrop, sorry, the Central West New South Wales Joint Organisation, the meeting we had in Orange, which was about the priorities. It was a good meeting. I think from this councillor, I think there was some interesting things. There was an increase of $150,000 for the board to support their the cyber security, which probably something might be interesting in the future for this council. Maybe to it's a cyber security policy for all the councils in the JAs. It's something this council might be interested in. I think if you have any other things to look at, I'd look at some of their advocacy stuff. There's a heap of advocacy plans on there. I think there's transport, health and ageing, water, regional prosperity and energy are all the different advocacy plans, which is really important. I think if you've got any of your councillors or anyone like to add to that, not today, but if you want to just put it to me, and I said we can present them to the JA to see if they'd like to include them in some of the plans. So that's about all. I don't think there's anything else on that, so I'll take that as read. So all those in favour of accepting the mayoral minute? Thank you very much. Anyone against? No, thank you. Anything else? We'll move on to page 31. I think it is. You don't need a second for mayoral.
So if you click A, if you just, select the mayor for, okay. Oh. Yep, and okay, yep.
Very good. Next we move on to page 31, the General Manager's report. Because of 9 there was no motions or questions with notes.
Thank you,
correct.
Mr Mayor, yes.
Thank you. Ask the General Manager to present a report. We have recommendations there that Council notes the draft 2024-34 Community Strategic Plan and accompanying delivery program documents and operational plan for 25-26. 2, we place the draft Community Strategic Plan and delivery program and draft operational plan, all attached reports on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days and invite submissions during that time from the community. The General Manager will present a further report together with all submissions received to Council at the conclusion of the public exhibition period for Council's further consideration and adoption of the plan, and hopefully adopt them at the June 2025 Ordinary Council meeting. We'll also authorise a draft operational plan and hereby make fixes and levies of the expenditure amount set out the draft 2025-26 operational plan and budget for the public exhibition in accordance with the provision of the Section 405 of the Local Government Act. They'll be on display for 28 days with submissions closing on the 21st of April 2025. We will then advertise the draft Community Strategic Plan, delivery program and operational plan in the Grenfell Record on its websites and Facebook pages, and display the relevant documents on the Council website, as well as making hard copies available to any members of the public who request them. And 6, in accordance with the provisions set out in Section 535 of the Local Government Act, Council will make fixed and levies the rates and charges for the 2025-26 financial year and authorise same for public exhibition as part of the Council's draft 2025-26 operational plan and budget in accordance with the provisions of the Section 405 of the Local Government Act, which will be for 28 days with submissions closing on the 21st of April 2025. And we have a move and a seconder. Yes, moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Rolls. Thank you very much. And then I'll ask the General Manager to present the report.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you very much. So presented here to councillors is our 3 documents: our draft Community Strategic Plan, which is the Weddin 2035 document, our delivery program, which is a 4-year plan, and our operational plan, which is our annual plan, which has annual actions, statement of revenue policy, and our annual budget. It's important to note that we did pre-consultation with the community in terms of what our thought processes might be with our Weddin 2035. And fortunately, with the fantastic input of how many people actually attended those workshops in the village and in Grenfell itself, we have come up with a vision around a vibrant, growing and welcoming community, rich in history, embracing its natural environment. We are going to be proposing that the Weddin 2035 centres around 5 themes. So this does move away from the current IPNR, the current community strategic plan structure. So we're talking about Weddin's people, the economy, infrastructure, environment and civic leadership. So after the extensive pre-consultation phase, we are looking at 9 function areas within those 5 themes with 14 goals that I think has been well supported through the pre-consultation process. And the one thing I wanted to note was there is still opportunity for members of the community to engage with our strategic documents. So we are talking about going out to public exhibition to welcome public submissions. We're also going to be conducting a customer satisfaction survey, which will be done by Micromex. So we'll be pushing out a lot of social media information around that so people aren't confused that they're telemarketers, and they'll be doing random, calls to a list of numbers which they have purchased, and making sure that if people do get the phone call, please participate. It's a really, really good opportunity to give us your thoughts around council services, but then also providing some input into the themes and the vision that we've put together as well. Now, we As part of the process, as part of our integrated planning and reporting process, we have our delivery program, which is the 4-year plan. So these are the principal activities that are undertaken by council, because we acknowledge that the community strategic plan is the community's plan. It has aspects in it that council can't directly influence itself, things around, aged care, health, those sort of things. But the delivery program are the activities that council has direct control over. And even in supporting those things around health, the things that we can control is around that advocacy piece. So that's actually really, really important to set out there. So the delivery program goes into those further actions, and that is also out for public display. The operational plan is our annual plan, which comes up with our statement of revenue policy, our annual actions and our annual budget. I bring to council's attention that the annual budget has been put in. We note that it was something that we have been working on in the background there, and it shows that in terms of what we're expecting for the next financial year, we've got grants and contributions for operating, so that's related to our natural disaster funding, so the DRFA funding. So that continues, that we're predicting that continues to come in as we deliver the reconstruction works from the 2022 floods. I will probably just make the comment around our grants and contributions for our capital. We're predicting about $2.273 million. It is a significant drop when you compare it to the previous financial years, because we had a really good time there with the number of grants that we were receiving for capital works, whether it was fixing local roads, building the Bridges Renewal Program. Those grants are no longer in existence, and we haven't heard from the state or federal governments whether or not they will be announcing any new types of capital grants. It will be probably the competitive process, whereas in previous years councils were allocated a proportion of these grants, whereas I think now we'll be going into competition with other councils. So it's just for councils' awareness around that. So we are predicting a total income from continuing operations of 24.6 mil. And then total expenses from continuing operations, and including the depreciation, is a $26.2 million in total expenses. So that does result in a net operating result of a deficit of 1.5 if you factor in the depreciation. I probably just wanted to make a note that the deficit has reduced when you compare it to the previous financial year. But I probably would stress that the amount of lack of grant injection into regional New South Wales is, it is a massive concern for our council, because we are 100% reliant on grants. That's the only way we're undertaking our capital works programs. It's the only way that we're actually undertaking basic maintenance is through grant funding, which I think a lot of people don't realise as well. And then the other aspect as well, just to wrap up, is the statement of revenue policy. So even though we've put the draft out for public exhibition, we're still waiting for a number of state agencies to confirm the statutory fees. So we don't set those fees, so they have been put in as to be confirmed. But the other fees and charges, we applied the rate peg percentage of 4.6 against the previous financial year, or the current financial year, for the next financial year as well. So I just also wanted to take a moment just to thank our Acting Director of Corporate Services, Auburn Carr, who's basically been project managing this integrated planning and reporting work to actually have, such a well-attended public consultation. The pre-consultation period is kudos to Auburn's organisation skills. So thank you very much. Thank you. Did anyone have any questions or comments?
I'll make a comment, same thing, echoing what the General Manager said. Thank you to all the effort of the staff. Thank you, Auburn. Thank you, everyone. This is a massive amount of documents to get through. It's a great job, but I've looked through it. I think it's really reflective of what the community wants as well, and I hope that's what we get in the rest of the thing, and the rest of the inputs from the community. I really enjoyed going out to doing the days at the community and seeing, and just listening. We didn't participate much, but just listening to what everyone had to say. And I think everyone wants to get back to the basics. I think that was what shown through. They just want their roads fixed and all those sorts of things. So I think that really is reflected in the plan as well. I think that's really good.
And also through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you to the community for coming out and engaging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's really, they're taking time out of their day, their work, whatever they have going on. And without that feedback, we can't create documents like this.
Yeah.
So thank you to the community members that came out and participated.
And on the case of the deficit, I think it will be a $1.5 million, but it's not, as the General Manager said, it was a 2.69 last year, so there have been efforts to reduce it. But with lack of grants and that, it's going to be very, very difficult to get us out of that situation. So we just got to keep moving forward with it. Is this time to? Did you want to discuss anything in the budget, or is another opportunity?
For councillors?
Yeah. We're not actually accepting the budget, I suppose.
No, so just to clarify that the operational plan has the budget set by function, so it goes into a bit more detail of what we're proposing in that space, so it's just for consideration there. There's obviously things that just is a no-go in terms of revoting it out if it's related to grants that we've received for specific purposes like roads. We can't go off and then, input it into, say, the library, for example. So it's just being mindful there around that. The one thing I had said it in the pre-briefing earlier, that I do want to talk about is around that lack of grant funding. And I guess when you compare the previous couple of financial years, there was that injection of the grant funds, but we also had the situation after the natural disasters with our RMCC, or the Road Maintenance Council contract, with the Newell and the Mid-Western Highway. So during the 22 events, we all know that the Newell Highway was closed, I think, for about 11 weeks there from memory. We undertook a significant amount of reconstruction works in the last couple of years, but those ordered works that's predicted for the next financial year, it's nowhere near the figures that we've seen around that $9-10 million mark. They're just talking about a $2.4 million indication of ordered works into the next financial year. The RMAP, which is the maintenance annual program, that obviously will continue, but we're probably going, if there is no rain, and obviously don't want floods to happen, but it's just being mindful that there's ebbs and flows when it comes to what happens after a natural disaster event. I think a lot of, again, going back to that perception that it's the council rates that actually fund roadworks, it's not. It's actually the grants and contributions that we receive from the state and federal government.
And when you look at the federal assistance grants on the rural roads and stuff, there's nothing. There's none. When you look how much these contractors cost per metre, those amounts do very little work.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got such a road network that needs so much work on it, and it's all the gravel resheeting. And the federal assistance grants are, was it 760,000 for rural, something like it doesn't go very far.
And I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can make one comment about our roads to recovery funding. So we will see an uplift in the 25-26 financial year. So I think that's from about $890,000 to just a bit over $1 million. But roads to recovery was for the purposes of construction activities, capital works programs, that sort of thing. We're going to be using it to plug in gaps. So for works that are unfunded from the DRFA funding, from the natural disaster funding, it's going to have to supplement a lot of the patches that won't be funded under that stream. So it's just being mindful that, even though the federal government will make the announcement that they've increased that funding, unfortunately for councils like ours, and we're not alone in this situation, we're going to have to be using this funding to plug in those unfunded gaps. So that's the reason why we've only at this point in time just said that the works program will be confirmed, but we're just publicly declaring how much we're going to be receiving, and then report to council at a later date of how that funding will be utilised.
Same thing, this is a great opportunity for the community. They've still got a few weeks left to put their input in, so if they'd like to do that, we'd love to receive any more submissions from the community on these documents. So any other questions or comments, councillors, on these ones? No? Once again, thank your staff for all the hard work. Really, I think the whole community should thank you. It's really, really good. Right, and so all those in favour of those recommendations I read out earlier? Thank you. Thank you. And all those against? Thank you, councillors. We move on to, I think it's page 129, the resourcing strategy. This is once again the General Manager, Integrated Planning and Reporting Resourcing Strategy. The recommendations are that Council notes the draft resourcing strategy documents, the long-term financial plan, the strategic asset management strategy and the workforce management strategy. They then place these draft resourcing strategy documents the LF long-term financial plan, the strategic asset management plan and the workforce management plan as attached to the report on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days for the purpose of receiving any submissions from the community. 3, we request the General Manager present a further report together with all submissions received to Council at the conclusion of the public exhibition period for Council's consideration and adoption at the June 2025 meeting. Authorise a draft resourcing strategy documents for public exhibition in accordance with the provisions of Section 405 of the Local Government Act for 28 days with submission closing date of, again, 21st of April 2025. 5, we advertise the draft resourcing strategy documents, long-term financial plan, the strategic asset management plan and the workforce management plan in the Grenfell record on its website and Facebook pages, and displays the relevant documents on Council's website, as well as making any hard copies available to members of the public who request the same. And 6, authorise for public exhibition as part of the Council's draft resourcing strategy documents in accordance with the provisions of Section 403 of the Local Government Act for 28 days with a submission closing date, again, of the 21st of April 2025. Thank you. We'll have a move and a second for those recommendations, Council. Moved by Councillor Rolls, second by Councillor White. What are you laughing at? There is lots of documents and lots of acronyms. So I'll ask the General Manager to then present this report.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I could have just said that Council note this report, but anyway, I've made sure that it was very detailed.
You've got to know what we're agreeing to.
So councillors, just for your awareness, presented is our resourcing strategy, which consists of 3 documents. So there's no such thing as a standalone resourcing strategy. It's made up of the draft long-term financial plan, our draft asset management strategy and our draft workforce management strategy. So we do need to finalise these before 30 June as a requirement under the Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework. The long-term financial plan, if anyone has reviewed it online, hasn't been updated for a number of years. So again, I do have to thank our management accountant, Dana, in terms of pulling all of this work together, because now that we've updated it to this current financial year, it makes review on an annual basis much easier, that we have accurate data, because we, if I can explain that the last long-term financial plan, obviously with the natural disaster events in 2022, with the uplift of funding, wasn't actually captured in that in the previous version. So the long-term financial plan obviously talks about the financial pressures that council faces, opportunities for future income and economic growth, whether council can afford what the community requests are, and that's how it links into things like doing service reviews in terms of making sure that we can meet the basic levels of service that the community expects within our current budget environment. How council can achieve agreed community outcomes, so that's obviously things that we've expressed in our community strategic plan earlier. What the projected income and expenditure is, the balance sheet, cash flow statements, planning assumptions. We've provided a baseline planning assumption of business as usual, and then we've also provided one scenario that's also explained in that long-term financial plan. We've looked at sensitivity analysis, so that could be things around factors that might impact on the long-term financial plan, whether it's interest rates, that sort of thing, CPI. We've been pretty conservative with those assumptions as well. So in terms of the long-term financial plan, the LTFP, it is noted in attachment 1. I note that we did present a working version to the councillors on the 24th of February. I welcome comments from councillors, whether or not you go away and have some time to actually review it before we actually finalise the final document, or if there's members of the community who also want some explanations on it, please come to council and we're more than happy to explain. But as I stated, that we've provided a business as usual model, so that's with assumptions of minimal grants and contributions for capital purposes. So we've been very conservative in that space, but that is also reflective of what we've seen in the last couple of financial years, that the state and federal government aren't giving out as much grant funding. Then scenario 1 is around enhanced asset management operating statement. So there's some assumptions around minimal grants and contributions, and what we can look at in terms of efficiencies within council, and then also looking at whether or not there's other ways to generate revenue as well. So that's our long-term financial plan, which will be out for public display, as we said, public exhibition till the 21st of April. Then the next document we've got attached is our strategic asset management strategy, and so our asset management is around that whole of life approach around all of our different assets. So the assets that are covered in this, the strategic asset management strategies, the buildings, the road infrastructure, so that's things like unsealed roads, bridges, sealed roads, footpaths, cycleways, curb and guttering, and car parks, that sort of thing. Sewerage, stormwater drainage, recreation, swimming pools and open space. And we've used the Public Works and Engineering, Institute of Public Works and Engineering framework to guide us with developing our asset management strategy. But the strategy is a little bit different to what council's previously seen. So we are talking about an overall framework, and we're doing away with the individual asset management plans and inserting it in as chapters as part of the overall framework, because we acknowledge that the documents that you currently see online was a lot of, I guess, regurgitation of the same information. So it's, I think, much more readable. And once we plug in more information through our valuation process. So this year, valuation of the road assets is due, next year is buildings. So once we know that data, again, once we do those annual reviews, we can update figures, condition of assets, that sort of thing into these documents. And once we also work on a streamlined asset, a plant replacement program, that will be also something that will feed into future versions of this strategy. But I think what is presented today is a very good working version of the current state of play. I would probably again stress around the opportunities for future capital upgrades. It's 100% reliant on grant funding. So the current future state for a lot of the assets, it does look a bit dire, but it's just the current truth in terms of council's lack of ability to actually be able to generate revenue for us to go and deliver new projects. And that's the reason why we are so reliant on the state and federal governments for that space. So that is the asset management strategy. And the final document is our workforce management strategy. So that's a 4-year document that shapes the capacity and capability of council's workforce. It goes into some of our strengths in terms of working in this organisation. I can say that there's a lot, but there's also some challenges as well that's been outlined in it. I think it's important to note that council's workforce, we've got over 28, like nearly 30% of employees who've served more than 5 years with council. So that serves as a strength in our business continuity. And we've also got this new opportunity with the Office of Local Government with the Fresh Start program, with the injection of new personnel around apprentices and trainees and cadets that are going to be joining our workforce over the next few years. But there's also weaknesses that I do need to stress that aren't just unique to council. It's also happening in other industries as well. So for our council specifically, we're talking about the financial constraints and our heavy reliance on grant funding to undertake business as usual activities such as asset management of our roads and parks and gardens and other things. We've seen a financial uplift in the last reporting period that's likely to impact on our employment numbers as those grants are ceased, and our casual employment numbers will be reduced into the future. It's not something that, because there is some level of cash injection in the next couple of years, but as the long-term financial plan shows, that we're expecting that to cease in future years. We're seeing a skills shortage in a number of areas across our business. We've also got an ageing workforce that are likely to retire in the next 5 years. We've got lack of business continuity for certain positions, so there's not a sustainable mid to long-term backup plan if staff were to take extended leave. And we've got issues with our ability to compete with other sectors around wages because of the way the local government award is actually written up. And our cost shifting and service shifting. So we've taken on a lot of regulatory roles from the state government because they've pushed it onto us to deliver some of these inspections and services as well. So they're the key challenges. Now, the workforce management strategy does talk about 5 workforce strategies that we want to focus on. So that's around building the leadership capabilities, really focusing on our aspiring and emerging leaders, investing in our local talent and ensuring that our staff have clear pathways for career success, creating a proactive safety and wellbeing culture and managing the risks at the forefront on our day-to-day activities, our ability to attract and retain our employees, and developing and implementing strategies and plans to support our team to embrace a values-based culture. So within this plan, there's also actions to achieve those strategies. So that's probably my very long-winded wrap-up of those 3 documents. But happy to receive comment from councillors, and obviously these documents will also be out for public exhibition until the 21st of April.
I think with the long-term financial plan, one thing is probably is make sure that the community realise that they're only projections. There's nothing set in there, is there? Like, you know, we're only putting out scenarios. You know, don't jump to any conclusions from them. Like, you know, there is stuff in there about increasing the rates for a special rate variation. It's just something council has to think about. Like I said, there's none of that. Those processes are long. We have to go through community consultation. We have to assess our current expenditure and the way we're spending our money. We have to investigate, you know, people's capacity to play lots of different things, and there's lots involved in it. But you know, it's pretty clear that I think some of it, you're pretty clear that it's going to be difficult for us to achieve. Like, you know, some of the you see operating ratios in there. We're not going to achieve those operating ratios. It's very, very difficult. And I think that's the operating ratios are the ones that get reports back to the LG and they go to Parliament, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, and that actually gets reported to Parliament on the condition of the Shire. So that's sort of, you know, it's going to be difficult moving forward to hit those targets. And that's so I think it's good to see those scenarios in there, but just to make sure, you know, the community are aware, we're not jumping to any conclusion that's what it is. They're just projections put forward by the staff.
And through you, Mr Mayor, it's actually a requirement by Office of Local Government to give scenarios. That's the purpose of doing long-term financial plans. So you look at scenarios around rates, you look at scenarios around annual charges, which is actually different to rates in terms of how you can optimise costs that way and charging that way.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm looking there that the stormwater levy, I think that's some things that it's not discussed and people can look at it, but it's something we haven't done previously. It's only a very small stormwater levy, but I think sometimes that's where council's at the situation we are, because previously we haven't been proactive in doing those and putting that money aside. It might only a little bit, but it accumulates over time, and that's sort of something I think we've got to think about those sort of changes. You know, it might be I think it's something like that. It's a $25
a block.
Yeah. A block, you know, something which other councils do, but we've never done that in here. But I said it does accumulate a small bit over time, but then we put that into a separate section, and then we can spend that on stormwater repairs or replacement of those infrastructure, which I think it's a bit of a failure of this council that we haven't done that previously, lots of different things. So once again, I'm a bit of a broken record. Thank you all staff. It's a lot of hard work to putting all this together and stuff that they don't do very often. It's, you know, once long-term financial plans, not done every year, it's done, and Dana I know has been doing her own work as well as doing all long-term modelling and stuff like that. So I know Dana's not here, but thank you very much and to her as well for all the work she's done with this. I think that's about it for me, but I think, you know, and really looking at those scenarios that we talk about staffing, it's really highlighted because the amount of fluctuations we have due to grants is, how can you predict that? Yeah. You know, how can we predict that? It's very difficult to predict that with our staffing levels. When 1 minute we've got this much and next year we're projected to get no grants. It's really difficult. Councillor Megan?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just obviously on that, perfectly what you just said, where at the bottom of the long-term financial plan they've actually put a net operations without grant funding, so it actually demonstrates how much we are reliant on grant funding just as a basic costing for our council, but also for the operational costs for employees within 10 years, it's doubles as well. So imagine in 10 years' time how much it's going to cost to fix roads, how much is it going to cost to do those infrastructure pieces in 10 years' time, let alone how expensive it is now, let alone in 2035, where if we don't get that grant funding, it simply won't happen.
And through Mr Mayor, around that employees cost, talking about doubling, that's not around doubling the workforce, that is literally around doubling the costing because of the award uplifts that we'll see that will happen. Obviously superannuation, all of that sort of stuff comes into it. We've also modelled around insurance as well, so how we've seen the premiums go up every single year, so that's all factored into that process as well.
So I think I read in here, I think I noted somewhere ours went up like $160,000, didn't their insurance? Went up a massive amount this year. Yeah. Any other comments, councillors, or no? No comments? No. I said it doesn't paint. I've got to admit, some of it doesn't paint a rosy picture. It doesn't, but you've got to be honest with yourself, and that's the situation we're in. And we have to be honest, and we have to work towards doing the best we possibly can. That's all it is. So, Right, so we've got a move and a second on that one. I'd like to put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations, please raise your hands. Say aye. Aye. Right. Or anyone against? Thank you. No one against. Thank you, councillors. Next move on to, I think it's page 252. Am I
Yes.
right? 252. The 10.3, the resolutions register. The council notes the resolutions register as of 13th of March 2025. Mover and a seconder. Thank you. Mover by Councillor White, and seconded by Councillor Neal. I'll ask the General Manager to...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just by way of background, obviously the resolution register is evolving in terms of, I think a lot of the activities have been recently closed off because we've been able to action them. Just noting as well that there's just some updates because some, like for example, with last month's council meeting, we talked about partial alteration or rescinding resolution 04624 relating to the donation to the Grove Grenfell Group. So that's just acknowledged there as well. So it gives a live update in terms of what's been put forward there, and just allowing councillors to have time to have a look at what's the project, status update of these. Yeah.
Councillors, any questions on any of those matters in the resolution register? No comments? No? Very good. Then I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour of that recommendation, raise your hand, say aye. Yeah, thank you. All those against? It's passed. Thank you. Move on to 263, the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, the independent chair. The council notes the report, which talks about the appointment of the new independent chair and that we had the meeting for. I'll ask the General Manager to report on that as well. Thank you. Sorry, yes, a move in a second. Moved by Councillor Macon, seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It just this report just is an update in terms of our appointment of our new Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, our ARIC chair. So that's Mr. Stephen Coates. That is enacting the previous council resolution to go back to the merit list. So we successfully ran our first ARIC meeting this week, and Mr. Coates joined our independent members, Mr. Michael Jones and Miss Kylie McRae. So that was the first time our ARIC had met as a new committee, and we were able to induct them in. We will be tabling the ARIC's meeting minutes to council for your noting at a later date once we've wrapped up those meeting minutes. But the meeting was very successful, timed very well, was able to give the new members a bit of an overview and an induction into Weddin Shire Council.
I attended the meeting. It was very, very good. I think they're going to be the new chair and the new members will be very, very good. I think they're going to be a real asset, asset using forward. I think we've got to adopt them as a part of our council. Really, they're there to help us. They're there to point anything to us, and I think they'll be very, very helpful to the council moving forward. That's all. So I think Councillor Montgomery was there as well. She had the similar view. We're looking forward to working with them. So that's all. Any questions or comments, councillors? No. So we'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the resolution, thank you. And all those against, thank you, councillors. Next we move on to 11, councillor, which is the corporate services report. Notice that council notes information contained in the statements of the bank balances and the banking facilities report. We have a move and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Macon, second by Councillor Rolls. Will the General Manager or will... who's going to present this one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll present it.
General Manager.
So just a overview of bank balances as at 28th of February. So we are seeing about $12.9 million in the various bank accounts, an update on our termed investments as well. So accrued interest earned is sitting just over $300,000. We saw $11,000. That almost looks like $11 million. Sorry, total interest to date. Yes, I think that's just a little bit wrong there. Sorry, but we've seen $300,000 accrued over this financial year. The other important thing to note is I see that the way our management accountant is reporting on our total cash, so the balance brought forward from table 1, shows a breakdown of what's been externally restricted. I think when people see this report, they go, council's got a lot of money in the bank account, but the majority of the cash is actually restricted for a purpose. So they're restricted for, for grants, for domestic waste management, because we have an external fund, or our sewer fund as well. So we've also got employee leave entitlements. So I go back to the explanation of if we were to close tomorrow, what are the things that we would need to pay, and our borrowings information is there as well. It's important to note that we've also added in on a monthly basis now around what grant or acquitted grant income is coming in. So our management accountant has provided that information. Then we've also provided, which is a new addition that Councillor Macon picked up in the pre-briefing around the internal allocations, noting the plant income, the Hogben Trust, and the cemetery prepaid fees as well, which is, as Councillor Rolls alluded to, quite high. But I needed to note that the Hogben Trust was something that our auditors had flagged as a long-term liability because it was sitting there. The committee's come to us in the past to ask for that the trust fund to pay for the windows at the museum. So there's been movement in terms of how we are actually addressing the funds that have been sitting there. But we have put that now into investments to make sure that it's collecting interest over time as well. But as our management accountant concludes, we're in a solid cash position as she's outlined in the conclusion there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does council have an investment strategy or not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an investment policy.
Yep.
And our strategies at the moment is obviously just these termed deposits and going in that way. But because in the past we only, I guess, banked with one bank.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, there's lots in common.
So we are actually, I guess, going between multiple banks now and getting that. And then they obviously will present a memo to me. Well, not obviously because you're not aware of it. They present a memo to me to talk about what, where they're going to invest that into, and then that gets signed off that way.
Councillors, any questions, comments? I think that's pretty thorough. She does the same thing. It's a good way of presenting the report to us. I think it's easily understandable. So I like it. So no, if there's no questions or comments on that, councillors, I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. All those against? Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to 11.2, rates, charges, collection. Note that council notes information in this report and updates on rates and charges collection for the month of February 2025. The General Manager is going to present this one as well, is that correct?
Yeah, move in a second.
Yes, so we need a move in a second. I'm going to get it right. Move by Councillor White and seconded by Councillor Macon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our monthly report in terms of where we are at with our rates collection. It's just noting that our outstanding rates has reduced down to $627,000 or almost $628,000, should I say, at the end of February. We will be sending out correspondence to those who are a little bit more overdue than others. So just to give them a polite reminder around the overdue rates and whether or not people need to enter into some form of payment plan with council just to make sure that they're getting that outstanding rates amount down. And we are proactively obviously working with our debt recovery agency with those 47 files. But there's probably not much more to report on that. I think the next instalment will be due next month, I think. Yeah.
I think it was concerning that we're getting up well over that 10%, and so it's a great job that we've got it down to 9.6, is it? 9.84%.
Yeah.
And that is one of those benchmarks that the Office of Local Government monitors, whether or not you're getting above that. So thank you for the rates clerk and the staff for getting that down. It's hard work, it's a hard job doing that, and it's they do a good job of it, and they do it in an understanding manner, I think. So it's very, very good. Questions, councillors? Any comments yet? Councillor Macon?
Just for my knowledge, for the pension concession, does the council get that back from the government as a repayment on the concession, or is it just a flat discount for pensioners?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe so. I'll have to take that on notice.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Because it'd be really, because obviously you're looking at this and there's $140,000 there.
Yeah.
If we're getting nothing back for a concession, or we're getting something back for the concession.
Could be wrong, but I think...
I'm happy to take
it.
Yeah,
I think it actually does. Yeah, I think there's a partial return or something that happens.
Through me, I don't believe it's like 100% recovery.
No.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing if it was.
It'd be better. Yeah, it would be. That's all. So we'll put that one to the vote then. All those in favour of those recommendations, councillors? Thank you. All those against? Thanks, councillors. We're up to now rates concessions. We're getting through. 11.3, altered resolution for the Australia Day grants and donations. So there's a few recommendations in this. The council notes the information table in the report. Alters part of the council resolution 25-24 of 3B from the October 2024 ordinary council meeting of council and deletes noting that if staff are successful at Australia Day Community Events Grants Program application, this will not be required. 3, approves to process the council donations of $250 to each village of Greenthorpe, Condialla and Caracable for their Australia Day events, meaning that each village will have received a total of $500, $250 from the National Australia Day Council and $250 from Weddin Shire Council. And 4, approves for the Bimby Progress Association Council donation of $250 to be utilised for other purposes in Bimby as they were unable to hold their Australia Day event in 2025. I'll ask the Arts, Tourism and Events Coordinator is going to present this one, I think. Is that correct?
No. Let's just call her our acting director.
Acting Director. Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take this paper as read. However, for awareness, this report seeks to rectify an administrative error within the Australia Day Award reports that went to the October business paper. And I'd like to thank the Condialla community for respectfully drawing Council's attention to this issue, allowing us to rectify the anomaly. Council makes an annual donation of $250 to each village for their Australia Day celebrations, and Council's events team was successful with the Australia Day Community Events Grant Program. This allowed an additional $250 of grant funding to be allocated to each village for their Australia Day celebrations. Inadvertently, the recommendation to the October meeting implied that the $250 from the grant would offset the council donation rather than be in addition to the council donation. And additionally, Bimby were forced to cancel their Australia Day celebrations last minute. This resulted in their $250 of grant funding having to be returned to the funding body. The recommendation to council is that we still provide our $250 donation to the Bimby Progress Association, but it's to be used at their discretion within their community.
Councillors, I'd like to offer a personal apology to the villages for letting this slip through the 250. It was a clerical mistake, I think, really, and I think it was actually part of a mayoral report as well. So I personally apologise to the council, to the villages for this mistake, and we're happy to rectify it. It's also it's very hard to keep track of everything from year to year of $250 and $500 and everything. So yeah, I am sorry that this has happened, and like I said, happy to rectify it. Any other questions, councillors, or comments? No. We haven't got a mover and a second for that one, have I, or not?
No, I don't.
No, I didn't. I jumped ahead. So I have a mover and a second for that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Riles and seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much. So there's no other comments, councillors. I'd like to put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you very much. And all those against? Thank you, councillors. Next we move on to our infrastructure services report, which is on page 274, I think. Note the council receives and notes information provided on the infrastructure works completed in February 2025 and the plan works for March 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor White and Councillor Macon, thank you very much. And I'll ask our Acting Director of Infrastructure to present his report to us.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Well, we've got the disaster packages progressing along. P2 was just started and the crews have completed 10 roads. P3 has one road left to complete, which is in the program coming up that the contractor is doing in the sealed road section. So that one will be completed in the next couple of weeks. P4 has just started and we've got 3 of the roads already done there. One thing to note, the community should note, is that as was explained to councillors, the council gets clearly patches to be repaired specifically by Transport for New South Wales under the funding arrangement, and our crews try their best to fix the road between those patches as best they can without incurring too much additional cost. But you know, those roads will be on a continual rotation to at some point get further grant funding, and then we fix the bits in between as and when we can. P5 program that we've been waiting on has been submitted to Transport, and there's been toing and froing there over the past month, and we will be waiting on them to give us a deed for getting that work happening. P6 has now been fully completed with Bald Hills Road being repaired, so we'll be quitting for that money there. P7, that's the culvert funding. That's been submitted, and there's been a bit of toing and froing between council and Transport, and we are awaiting their approval before April. Major work, state roads, yeah, that's progressing very well with Phil and his team, and one of our grader crews assisting. Major works, although they haven't started, Pullabooka Road drainage is on program to start, with Luke and I working closely together on that one, waiting for some EPA approval. Greenthorpe Kurawatha has been completed, and we will be acquitting for money this month. Nowlands Road is progressing well, with the contractor performing very well to program. A Ramagong Road culvert, the road's now been officially closed, and work will be starting next week. The contractor was there today with council engineers, just giving us a run through of his environmental works that need to happen before that work officially starts. Corradable shared pathway has been completed by council. The remaining work across the railway will be completed by ARTC contractors, and we'll be acquitting that work by the end of the financial year. Badalong Dam restoration project, well, we're still waiting on the final report from Public Works Department. 3rd Street, Quandiella, our engineer is, our design engineer, contract design engineer has come back, and he said the design for that curb and gutter on that 3rd Street will get back to us within the next fortnight, so that will be then progressing to tender and work, which will finish before the end of the financial year. Road maintenance work and gravel resheeting are being undertaken as per planning and RER funding, with the council crews doing that work. Parks and recreation, park maintenance, whippersnipping, town maintenance, village maintenance is continuing along as planned. Plan report, thankfully, I should have a close look. I don't think we've had any major issues last month, although the mechanics are repairing our gear as and when required. Wastewater treatment plant, on the 8th of February, due to heavy rainfall, we've had an overflow event that was reported to the EPA. They've given us some suggestions, enhanced monitoring, infrastructure improvements, which council is taking note of. I mean, we have done smoke testing of parts of the Shire, and it's proven that some of the old homes that were built over 70 years ago are contributing to that overflow event by their stormwaters being connected to the sewage system, and council is dealing with that as best it can. Biosecurity, their spraying program is underway as planned and going well. Main Street update. Again, the disabled parking in front of IGA. I'll gather somewhere down the track I might take the councillors for a walk and have a bit of a look at the proposed rejigging down there. But we've got contractors that are ready to do some work and complete that. It's just a matter of someone agreeing to a change from the approved Main Street drawing and taking to and getting agreement from the local traffic committee as well. Likewise, same issue with the taxi stand that just needs a rejigging from where it was designed initially and approved to where it is now. CCTV in the Main Street, well, that's still being worked at, and the contractor there is trying to get that finally operating 100%. It's operating, but there's let's say there's a intermittent bug in the thing, and that is the infrastructure report. Everybody.
Councillors, any questions of the Director? Yes, Councillor Mangum.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that for the disaster packages, with that funding amount also naming the roads and streets, doesn't necessarily mean that whole street or that whole road will be repaired.
No.
Because I've had community members reach and said, "Oh, wonderful! My road has been named. I'm getting a new flashbang new road," and also those values can change significantly to when it's actually finally approved as well. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, correct, councillor. The whole road, I guarantee, will not be repaired. Personally guarantee that, because as I've tried to explain to some ratepayers that come in and see me on a bi-daily basis, we only get grant money that specifically gives patches of the road that were identified by transporters needing repair. And note that repair that we've been funded for was approved in 2022. So needless to say that between patch 1 and patch 2, that bit of road between those two patches is equally deteriorated over this 3-year period. So, you know, that adds to council's woes in many ways.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I can just clarify what I had spoken earlier about the roads to recovery funding. So what our director is talking about is the fact that if a patch was approved to be funded in 2022, we know that the road has significantly deteriorated outside of the spray paint, the markers on the ground. That is unfunded, so that's the reason why we've got to look at other streams of funding, because it's not going to be funded under the DRFA funding. And the other important thing to note is that DRFA funding has got nothing to do with getting a new road. It's replacing like for like. So if a culvert washes out every single time it floods, we can't then go and apply to the state government and federal government to seek a bigger size culvert. We've actually got to replace exactly the same size back in. It's a complete waste of money in terms of how they're actually running the DRFA program, but it is something that doesn't actually affect New South Wales. It's an Australia-wide program, and it's been something that every single conference that we go to, whether it's the Australian Local Government Association conference in Canberra, every other council across the country is saying exactly the same thing. So it's a misconception out there that the DRFA funding or the natural disaster funding funds a new road. It's just replacing like for like.
Through you, Mr Mayor, on top of what the General Manager said, and she mentioned it in her report, a lot of our RERRF funding has been redirected to also fix some of these natural disaster roads in areas where between patches the road is actually worse than the patch we're trying to fix. So we have significantly diverted funds to keep these current roads that we're trying to fix, fix the bits in between where we can, or increase the size of the patch while we have the contractor there, and a little bit extra can be done with that same efficient package of money. So that hopefully is recognised by the community that council is trying to use its meagre funding as best it can.
Councillors, anyone other questions? No? Thanks, Anthony, for all your work on it as well. Thank you very much. Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
No, no question.
I had a question.
Yep.
But the director answered it for me before you even asked the question, so that was really good. Thank you.
And I'm sure that the director will be planning a party when all the drought funding is finally completed and
You mean flood funding?
the flood funding, sorry, the drought funding. Well, that's what happened. We'll go from the flood to the drought next, but yeah, when all the... But you won't put a date on that, will you?
We have until, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, we actually have until the end of the financial year, next financial year to get this completed. But I think
not this one coming, that's 20%. Yeah.
So
That's
obviously for the community club, the council has submitted these grant applications in 2022. We're now 2025 and still waiting to hear back from them. So it's obviously not a fast process to make this happen, to actually, applying, receiving the approval and then completing the works is almost 3 years later, and still waiting for those approvals to come through as well. So it's not
3 years, Mr Mayor. Agonising would be a word, and you know, this discussion that I mentioned in the report where council goes back to Transport for New South Wales, I mean, we're going back, they knock us down and we're going back scrambling to try to get a few extra shackles back on the original sum, which is difficult.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm in a very thankful mood. I do need to thank our Director for Infrastructure Services, because, you know, it's him and our management accountant meeting with Transport constantly on a very regular basis. You know, I don't think I can actually have a conversation with our Director without a Transport member calling our Director back, because he's, you know, been ringing through around this. So it's been a lot of negotiation with Transport for New South Wales.
As well as dealing with the public as well, with all the issues, because we know it's been hard for the public. Everyone's quite aware that these roads have been damaged for 3 years now, and people are getting tired of it, I suppose, and they just want to see them fixed. That strategic plan, that's what came out. Most people said we just want to get back to basics and we just want to have those things fixed.
We have empathy, through you, Mr Mayor, we have empathy for their plight, but unfortunately limited resources to do anything about it.
And that's why our pressure's always got to be on to increase the federal assistance grants to a level where it's acceptable for us, where we can actually have some money to go ahead and do these things instead of fighting for it all the time. But we'll keep trying and we'll keep plugging away. So, Councillor Macon, sorry, Councillor White.
To you, Mr Mayor. Just regarding the natural disasters repairs, just to make these potholes safe for the time being, where's the funding come out of that? Because it's in here stating that there was an extension for up to 3 months, and part of the issue was staffing.
Through Mr Mayor, it's probably I will probably answer that one. So after a natural disaster event happens, you have 3 months to do your emergency repairs, and that comes from a separate bucket of money. So we used to report on that in the previous council term, but given the time that has gone, we've utilised the funding that they've given us to plug in the potholes. The issue is we all know that potholes wash out, and so the road continues to deteriorate. So what we're dealing with now isn't just potholes, it's much bigger, it's requiring heavy patching, that sort of thing. Obviously with our unsealed roads, which is also of concern, that road condition has deteriorated significantly. So to answer your question, unless it's an absolute make-safe situation, then obviously the first thing that council staff do is to put signage out to warn people about approaching the deteriorated area or the damaged road. And if it requires some level of intervention, then we have to dig into our own maintenance funding, which again is funded by our financial assistance grant. But however way we can actually utilise our financial assistance grant for actual other maintenance of other areas, that's more important. But obviously it is there. But we could easily, if we send our crews out, you know, just doing a standard work day, we would chew our maintenance funding within 6 weeks for the whole year if we were to use it at maximum capacity. So.
Makes a bit of sense.
It's a juggling act, it is.
Thank you.
No more questions, councillors? No? Okay, all those in favour of accepting the recommendations in the report? Aye. All those against? Thank you very much, councillors. Move through. Yep, so we're up to 13.1 on page 286, the Environmental Services Report. That's in this one with council, we recommend that we note the report of the 2 rural waste facilities and proposed options for future waste services. Delegate the Director of Environmental Services to begin consultation with the community regarding a proposal for rural domestic waste and recycling collection services to replace the bank of general waste bins at Crackle and Corndialla. 3, to delegate the Director of Environmental Services to begin consultation with community regarding the options of transitioning the Crackle and Corndialla waste facilities to a waste transfer station. And 4, request that the Director of Environmental Services prepare a further report to Council upon the completion of the community consultation process, including any feedback that has been provided. Have a move and a second for these councillors? Yep, moved by Councillor Macon and seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much. Now I ask the Director of Environmental Services, Mr Sheen, to present this one to us.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the purpose of this report is just to provide an update to the community and to Council on the actions taken so far for our 2 rural waste facilities, and along with proposing some options moving forward. So I probably won't go through all the background, but I've included all the background of where we started and the EPA involvement and ultimately us having to close the facilities some time ago. We have, the General Manager and myself have continued to have regular meetings with the EPA fortnightly previously, so we've been constantly sort of in dialogue with them around the obligations on us for the remediation of the 2 sites and putting forward the argument that their original requirements around removing all contaminated asbestos soil from the site was just not financially viable. So we've ultimately undertaken some, along the way since the last report to Council, we've also undertaken some further clean-up operations out there as well. So we've removed over close to 23 tonnes worth of tyres out of Carackable and Corndialla. So that was done internally, so from our staff, and took it to a local facility that's licensed out in adjoining Shire, but close to Corndialla. So the large proportion of those tyres are actually at Carackable. We'd actually dragged those out when we'd done some previous clean-up works and removed some of the scrap steel out there, but that's sort of the magnitude of some of the waste that we've got to try and deal with. It's just a legacy issue. They've been out there for a long time. So we've also been looking around and removed about 100 kilos of asbestos from both sites more recently. So we had an asbestos contractor do that. That was allowing us to get in to start doing some fencing work, so concentrating around the edges. At Corndialla, unfortunately, someone dumped another lot of asbestos out there just before Christmas, after we'd already sort of cleaned up the process. So we've removed that again.
Makes it hard, doesn't it?
So we have got already some EPA funding to do some fencing and some new cameras out there. So one of the issues was that we couldn't actually start that work with fencing with the asbestos issue. So we're now in a position that we've cleaned up around the fence lines. We've dragged some of that waste away from there, had the occupational hygienists go out there and clear the sites last week, We've engaged a local fencing contractor to start that fencing work, which will provide sort of better security at both sites. We've also got a company who has developed some new camera technology. So they've actually been out and inspected both sites. They've been out again yesterday, and those new cameras will be going up shortly, which will provide us with added security at both of those sites again. So we're sort of on track in terms of that. We have had a bit of a win with the EPA, so we've been arguing around that there's got to be a better option than removing all that soil from the site, massive amount of cost. We put forward a proposal to do some soil testing and encapsulation plan at both sites. The EPA have got back to us recently and said yes, they support that idea. Obviously, we will go off now and do that soil testing. We've got a contractor lined up to do that. They will do a detailed plan and present back to the EPA for them to finally, hopefully, sign off on that. If they do and approve it, then we've obviously got hopefully a more financially viable option to deal with that contamination. So that will ultimately mean within the existing facilities, us taking some samples, identifying the best spot within the existing facility to basically dig a cell. If the soil test comes back that soil is appropriate, we will then be able to pretty much drag or push the top 100 mil and whatever's contaminated into that and then cap it. So as the director or acting director of infrastructural services mentioned in his report, we have already started carting a large amount of fill to Quandialla, adjacent to the current facility. So council owns a bit of land which is outside the fence line, so we're carting that at the moment. We're also lining up to do the same thing at Crackable, so that we've got the cover there ready to go as the capping material. So that will obviously save us a lot of money in terms of having to try and go and source that or truck it in from places, so that will be an advantage. So all that work will hopefully happen. The new cameras and the fencing to comply with the grant funding, we've got to have that done by, I think it's the 23rd of May, so we're all systems go at the moment to try and get that all done. Now what that will do is essentially secure the sites. We'll then obviously concentrating inside that if we get the feedback from the EPA that it's right to go, and then start doing the remediation work and clean up. So we'll be back to a bare site hopefully, both of those. So moving forward, there has been some feedback. I mean, we've had some continual feedback from the local communities. Council originally put out a bank of general waste bins at Quandialla and Crackable. Quandialla already had a bank of recycling bins. Crackable didn't, so we added some recycling bins to Crackable. They were only supposed to be a short-term solution at the time, just to get us over the initial hump of having to close them almost overnight, the facilities. We probably weren't aware of the magnitude of the clean-up work that we were going to have to do at both of those sites. We initially thought, look, we can get out there, we can push it all into a cell and cover it. That was the advice from some of our waste consultants. That's the best way to deal with it. EPA weren't happy with that at the time, so it sort of snowballed from there. So it's probably now, obviously there's been a few issues around the location, odour, people sort of dumping other waste there and those types of things. So we have been regularly monitoring those, and every time staff are out that way, keeping an eye on it and bringing some of the waste or the bulkier waste that doesn't go in the bins, trying to bring that into town. So we're looking at, I suppose, a longer term solution for those moving forward. So there's a few potential options. The community, a few community members have mentioned around skip bins. Can we just sort of provide bigger skip bins? Look, they are problematic. I mean, based on what feedback from other councils, if you just have them in an unsecure location, so somewhere. You've still got to have the same issue, is that where the bank of bins or where do we put them? If they're a secluded location, people tend to dump a lot of waste at them, and you get all sorts of types of waste, similar to what we get on the highways with some of the bins in there. We get dead animals and dead sheep and asbestos, all those types of things. So it's pretty hard to have just an unsupervised, unsecure skip bin just sitting there. The other issue is that council's truck can't pick up skip bins. So that was the reason why we went with just the 240 litre bins at the time, is that we could actually do it with our truck. There's also a cost, so we've got an approximate cost per year just to provide a few skip bins at both sites as an interim measure. So you're looking at simply $20,000 just to get someone out there to pick both of those up, bring that waste in the landfill. So it's probably not recommended, would be just doing the skip bin idea. We've looked at a rural domestic waste and recycling collection service. So some other councils on their own, obviously we're going to each village now, and providing a curbside collection service. So there are other councils where appropriate, I'll provide a rural collection service on the way. So what we'd be looking at is formulating a run, so it may not be going directly to Caracable, but it might be going down some of those other roads that are deemed suitable and having some collection points for people. I suppose that would be, as long as the truck, safe for the truck to pull over, there's suitable places for people obviously to either bring their bin to that location on the collection day, we can empty it and then they can come back and pick it up. So on the same day that we would normally do the village runs, which are on a Wednesday. So 1 week it's general waste, the following week it's recycling. So in the report we've basically mapped where rural dwelling locations are that we know of, where people used to have fob access to each facility. So just for now, that's probably about as accurate we can go. There'll be some slight issues there about there might be a couple of extra, 1 or 2 houses, or someone might have moved out and it's vacant, or whatever it may be, but that's all we can really do from a mapping point of view. So it gives you pretty much the layout for Caracable and Quandia of where those dwelling locations are, so they're quite widespread. So it's probably unrealistic with one truck for 1 day a week to try and get around to each one of those dwellings and pick it up from the front gate. But what we're looking at potentially doing is whether we can, as I said, go down some roads and get within a reasonable location of most people. It may mean that yes, they need to get their bin on the back of the ute, take it down to an intersection or something like that for a suitable location, but we could then collect their bin. So that would mean general waste or general domestic waste, which fits in within a 240 litre bin, same as what it would be for anyone with the normal curbside collection service. They would have a recycling service and a general waste service. So that's one option. Some considerations that we obviously need to take into consideration would be costs, so that would be a fee for service. So council has to calculate the cost so it doesn't exceed the reasonable cost of providing the service. So similar to what we do with the villages, we sat down and worked out how much is it to run the truck out there, how much time, all those wear and tear on the truck, all those types of things. So we're probably looking something in the vicinity of what we charge the villages to offer that service, with $373 a year. So that's an option. A couple of things that council will need to consider is the new FOGO requirements that have been brought in by the state government, so the food organics and green organics mandates. So that recently passed Parliament. Now what that legislation says is that wherever council provides a residual waste collection service or our general waste collection service, is that by 2030 we've got to provide them with a FOGO service. Now the legislation's gone through, it doesn't have any exemptions in at the moment, but the government has advised us that they will be developing some of those, but we're basically in the dark with what those will be. So if we offer people this rural service, we also have to consider that potentially down the track, we may have to offer those
Another
a photo
service.
service as well. Now, what I'm hoping that the government would probably see us, like a rural shire like us, we simply can't offer a photo service with one truck because it goes every day of the week, besides one Friday, where we do servicing and those types of things. So to try and offer a photo service and comply with those requirements, we ultimately probably have to use a contractor, and you also have to have a processing of that photo waste. So you've got to be able to compost it and do something with it. So for a small shire like us, unviable to do that yourself, so we'd probably be looking at a collective of larger councils. So we are doing, we have sort of teaming up with Cowra. They're looking at lodging a grant to see if we can do sort of viability around photo. There's some grant funding out there, we'll pay for that. Just help us, I suppose, maybe make the argument down the track if it's not for us and it's not going to work well financially, because that will give us some, hopefully some a report or something to go back to the council, to the government to try and get an exemption. So that's one option. The other option that we've sort of talked about there is the transition of the landfill sites to waste transfer stations. So the government and the EPA, I suppose, are pushing more and more for these unlicensed landfill sites to be either closed or transitioned to waste transfer stations. So essentially what that means is that the waste is still, you can still bring it into the facility rather than going into a hole within the facility. It's taken into either on the back of a truck or into skip bins, and then it's taken to a larger facility where it can then be sort of dealt with there in a single facility. That reduces some of our costs and eliminates some of those environmental issues and some of the EPA issues that we have to deal with. So we've done some work in terms of, if we went down that track, how a sort of those smaller transfer stations. Now, because we don't have the staff and we don't have the resources to actually do a transfer station, if you were going to have skip bins, obviously you have to have a skip truck, or you would have to have a loader. There's a few different options with waste transfer stations. So we don't have that infrastructure or gear to do that. So relying on a contractor, you're probably looking to man the site. You'd have to man the sites to meet our obligations under the regulations. So there's a rough cost of $1,600 per day. So that would be based on opening crackable and quantity for 3 hours each on the same day. The contractor being there, manning the site, collecting the waste, putting that on a truck, and then bringing that into Greenville. So that's just a rough cost. If we were going to go down that track, we would probably have to go out to tender. So the final cost probably wouldn't be known, the exact final cost wouldn't be known at this stage, but that gives you an idea of what we'd be up for. So within the report there, that sort of obviously equates to $83,000 a year if we're going to offer a weekly, $41,600 for a fortnightly service, or $19,200 for a monthly service. So in our current financial year, we're budgeting for a total income from rural waste charges from residents, from rural assessments, of $70,000 throughout the whole Shire. So that sort of probably gives you an estimate of where we're at. So look, if we were going to do it, most other places, well, I shouldn't say most, but the ones that I've spoken to generally open once a month. And because of the costs involved in that. So the advantages of waste transfer station is you don't have any of those long-term remediation costs that we have to consider in our long-term financial plan. If in 10 years' time people decided, look, don't need it anymore, you can pretty much shut the gate and walk away, and your remediation costs are already, or your remediation's already done. We're in a position now where we're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars remediating these sites anyway. So if we were to go and start digging a hole and start putting waste in them again, we're going to have that ongoing cost to think about down the track. So look, the other option that we're putting there is obviously the closure of the facilities. It was probably some strong feedback through the community strategic plan and from the community that they don't want to see that. We've got 2 facilities which relatively are close together. So I think it worked out about 32 kilometres by road. I know 32 kilometres can be a long way, but in terms of what a lot of other shires, we're talking hundreds of kilometres between 2 facilities. So relatively speaking, they're close together. So council could look at closing one, closing both. Probably not what the community want at this stage. So what the recommendation is in this report is to go out in the community and say, look, we can offer that rural collection service, see if they would be interested in doing that. To make it viable, we need a certain number of people to actually take that up. We've only got, as I said, 1 garbage truck, so to think that we're going to go around and pick it up from everyone's front gate, it's not going to happen. There's going to have to be there's going to be a little bit of cost from them to sort of get their bin to a certain location. If we did go down that track, it also means that there may be a potential for us to offer it to other people in the eastern part of our shire. So we obviously do a bit of a run, so Crackable, Quandy, Bimby, then over to Greenthorpe, and then if it's recycling day to Cowra to drop off recycling for processing, if it's general waste it's back into Greenthorpe. So there'd be an option there obviously to expand that service, and that wouldn't be all parts of the Eastern Shire, but along the designated route that we take to Greenthorpe, we might be able to offer that to some extra people that way. So it's probably putting that out to the community with seeking their feedback. Obviously there'll be, if they're happy to go down that track, we would have to sit down and work out some finer details around where we can take the truck, where it's suitable, hopefully more likely sealed roads if we can, where the best spot to pull over, where there's enough room, all those little things that we have to sort out and see if people are happy to go that way. And also seek their feedback around the transition to transfer stations. So if you have that, you've obviously got a weekly or an alternating weekly service for general waste and recycling that we could offer, plus potentially once a month having the waste transfer stations open for them for any other waste that they may generate. I think that's about it. Any questions?
Would you consider subcontracting that function out, just if it was Crackable and Quandiella, to do a costing on it as well, in place of trying to fit it in with what our staff do?
Oh yeah.
You look at the cost of
collection of
the collection, say to what West Wylam.
Well, there are places out there. A lot of councils now. We're probably us, Cowra. There's not too many places that run their own garbage truck anymore. We sat down before a couple of years ago when we done the village service and sort of had a think about it. It's probably an income generator for us.
Okay. Yeah.
So some places, bigger places, are probably cheaper for them to go to a contractor to do it. When you look at our financial statements, obviously our landfill sites cost us money to run each year. Our curbside collection makes a bit of money, so it offsets each other. Obviously with curbside collection, it's not just going and picking up the waste from their bin. That's obviously got to go and get managed. So what happens when it goes to the tip? We've got to push it out, we've got to cover it with all those long-term costs that we have to factor in there. So look, at this stage we've had a look and we believe that we could do it internally. There's enough time. It just would mean that on some we have a cardboard collection that we do in town, so when they do the village run they're back in town by about lunchtime. And we've got a couple of hours, so they'll run around and do cardboard collection and then take that to Cowra. So it just might mean that we have to fill around with when we do that cardboard collection and change that to a different day. So, and that way it'll be all in-house, we do it. We've got more control too, so one of the big issues for some of those councils that contract it out is that it's pretty specific to say, rightio, that's it. There's no, oh, well, someone missed the bin or whatever it is, it's bad luck until next week. If there's something out of the ordinary, like we obviously have things like the show and the races and that sort of stuff, where we can say, look, we'll send the truck out to pick up the bin or something interactable, we can do that. You can't do that with a contractor.
you happy with the capacity we have at the Grenfell tip if all that transfer waste is now taken from Crackle and
We've got enough
Cordiella?
space at Grenfell Tip for the next 100 years.
All right, that's all right. That's good. That's a good answer. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it just means it's easier. The current contractor can deal with that, no worries. They've got a newer compactor.
Yeah.
So we've just, in terms of landfill sites, we're just concentrating on one. We've made a fair few changes out of the current facility to sort of try and bring that up to a better standard than what it has been. So, yes, I don't think that will be too much of a way.
Oh, Councillor Macon?
Just, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
So for the rural pickup, so garbage truck going around doing selected spots, as you said, it's a fee for service, so if someone that's on the way out to Coraggle, can they opt in instead of going all the way into here or all the way to there, like halfway in between here? So they can go, yes, I want to join this as well. And when you are doing, obviously fine-tuning the route and all that sort of stuff as well, as you said, you basically have 1 day spare. Is it sustainable to go out slowly, going to all these stops, and if you want to go to Greenthorpe, sort of choose up a day quite quickly?
So on the Wednesday, we do a village run already, so we go all the villages in 1 day. So depending on whether it's general waste or recycling, it's slightly different in terms of timing, but we've sort of worked that out that we believe there's enough time. As I said, if we get rid of, I essentially do that run on 1 day, one village run, come back here and do Carbon, go to Cowra and come back before the drivers past his or his knock-off time. So if we do that on a different day, we believe we've got enough time to obviously go down a couple of extra roads or divert off the main roads and do some of those extra collections and still be back in town and finish before.
And just through you, Mr. Mayor, that while we do the clean-up and the remediation work, is it secure or can someone go in and dump more stuff because once again, it's just going to be shoveling money to go in, someone goes and dumps another load of asbestos, we've just fixed it, and you get there and go, oh, we've got to go through this again. Is there a way we could secure first, then deeply remediate? Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
Oh, right, okay.
So we'll have all the fencing done by the 23rd of May.
Yeah.
So that will secure the site. We'll have new fencing all around Caracal, because there's just been so many holes cut in the fence. It's an old fence anyway, so the grant funding will pay for the majority of that.
Yeah.
The new cameras will be up, extra fencing at Quandiella. So one of the issues that we've had at Quandiella has been man-proof fencing along most of the front part of the site, except for the last 20 metres which drops down to rural fencing, and all we do is they were doing is throwing stuff over that fence. So we're increasing the height of that, taking it right down and along the sides so that it eliminates that ability. The cameras, we've got cameras out there, so hopefully no one wants to go in there and dump before, but the new cameras, they're double head, they will pick up a lot more stuff than what the current ones. They do pick up a fair bit of stuff, but these ones hopefully will pick up a lot more in terms of rego plates and give us a lot more evidence if people are out there. They'll be infrared, they'll work at night, so it'll be a lot more secure than what they have there.
And on that, through you, Mr. Mayor, if the behaviour continues of illegal dumping or stuff like that, who actually do we as a council report to EPA and say, here you go, we've caught these people, or do we actually enforce it as a council?
We can enforce it.
Yeah, okay.
So there is, they call it the WID, so that's a reporting hotline. That will go through, that's sort of been developed by the EPA, so that's for New South Wales wide. So they encourage, we're a member, so they encourage people to actually put that in there, and then we investigate any dump rubbish. It doesn't mean whether it's around the waste facilities. We get some out in bushland or the side of roads. We generally go and investigate them all, and we'll go through and see if we can find someone. It's amazing that people will leave a letter with their name on it or something along those lines, and then generally take action if you get it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because I was in a mood of thanking staff, I do have to thank our Director of Environmental Services for everything he's done in this space, especially in the fact that we just don't have the manpower, but our director's been obviously dealing directly with the EPA, with the contractors, with the community members. It's quite a massive job in terms of where we've gotten to, and to avoid the improvement notice being issued by the EPA is phenomenal as well.
I have to agree. Yeah, well done. One more question. They just with the cell, they're saying we're doing soil testing. Do you think there's an option to augment that soil if it comes back and the soil tests aren't favourable? Is that something you discussed with them?
I suppose our argument has been with the EPA is that we're happy to take on the visible asbestos and some of the other stuff that's there. That's not a huge amount, a few truckloads, not 70 truckloads worth of soil like they originally were planning. It's an inert substance. Asbestos doesn't usually, well, from our knowledge, it's a lot of waste consultants' knowledge, it doesn't travel through soil. So one of the things I suppose our argument has been, why do we even need to do this? But if you're going to have general waste, yes, obviously you have a lot of liquids and things, so you have to look at certain parameters of the soil. There's ways and means you can do it. So in the report, even if you had to go to a lined cell, and we don't believe, hopefully, that we will need to do that. We've already done some. We've sort of looked at some of the borehole testing around the area when we first went to the EPA, so a bit of a clay level, so naturally. So there's a potential, if we have to go with roughly $20,000 is what the consultants are saying if you had to do a full lined cell to meet the EPA requirements for a licensed facility. So that's what we'd be up for if say it comes back. Hopefully it won't. That's part of the process with the consultants is then to take the soil tests away and come back with something that they're obviously dealing with these all the time to say, yeah, it's suitable, or no, we need to have this and the most cost-effective solution. So we're hoping that pretty much that'll just prove to say, look, it's fine to do for this purpose.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments, councillors? No questions? No? So we've got the report there, so we're just really going to put it out to allow the director to go out and do a bit of more community consultation on the matter and come back with a few direction for the council to look at. So I think that's it's pretty good, and hopefully, like I said, we can eventually come to a solution for all this. It's been ongoing now since 2023, so we've got to get to there's got to be light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. So, right, as councillors, I'll put this recommendation to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations? All right, thank you, and all anyone against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you. Moving through now to 13.2, development applications, construction certificates and complying developments. This one's only for noting. We have a mover and a seconder. Please move by Councillor Macon and second by Councillor White. Thank you very much. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that's just a list of all the development applications, the construction certificates and a complying development certificate that were issued during the month of February. So obviously I was away during January, so there was a few that sort of carried over and got determined in February.
I've got no issues, no comments, councillors? No? I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Oh, sorry, Councillor Macon, yes?
For the change of business for Central West Enterprises there for the funeral home in the main street, was there any sort of specific requirements for having a funeral home there to have that sort of business in the main street, or is it can just be changed to that?
So it needed developer consent. So there's certain businesses in the what we call the employment zone or that business zone where they don't need consent to do a change of use. So the state environmental planning policy for exempt and complying development. So exempt development, you're exempt from approval. So that allows you to go from a dress shop to a shoe shop in most situations without having to go through the whole process of lodging DAs. There's certain businesses that you can't do that, so skin penetration places, food premises and funeral homes. So that's the reason why they've done the change of use. It was issued subject to a number of conditions, and that includes the requirement to ensure that coffins aren't highly visible or aren't visible from the main street. So everything's brought in from the Woody Lane way. So so a few conditions specific for that type of business.
Yeah, because through you, Mr Mayor, that I was approached by a community member and saying, people bringing coffin out into the main street as they walk out to put in something like that. It was more around that, because there is a little chapel in there, so making sure that that's...
The actual application, we did sort of talk with them about that, so there's no body storage on there. There's obviously a whole range of obligations to do that, so that's not it. They're basically just a viewing before a funeral, but all that will come in from the rear, and it won't come in. So even the display of coffins, we didn't want those quite more visible from the main street. So the way that it's set up internally, you won't be able to see those, and there's conditions on there around that too.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rolls.
Does the zoning there allow them to put a mortuary in to that building?
Look, I'd have to take that on notice. I think a funeral home is permissible, so maybe potentially a mortuary would be. That's something we'd have to consider.
Thank you, councillors. All those in favour of those recommendations then? Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you very much. Next we'll move on. That's it. Thank you, Director. I think we're moving on to the delegates' reports. Councillor Niven has put a delegates report in for the Weddin Land Care meeting. That was in a summary there. Did you like to speak on that, Councillor Niven, or are you happy to take it as read?
I'll take it as read. I'll move it to be accepted.
Yep, move it accepted. You have a seconder for that? Yeah, Councillor Macon will second it. There's no discussion on any of those report, is there, councillors? No? I'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour of the accepting of the delegates report? Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor. That's it. Move down to highlights a lot of the good work that they're doing. Get there next. It's quite a long one. Right. Next one is 14.2, delegate report from the Weddin Health Council meeting. This is the delegate report from Councillor White, the healthcare meeting. Discussions on key worker accommodations and the Grenfell NPS newsletters. Did you have any comments, Councillor? No?
I'd like to put out there that the Health Council have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try and improve the services up there at the NPS. And it looks like they've got the motion going, and can't wait.
Keep up the momentum.
Yes. Next meeting is April, so there will be new minutes and updates of the progress of the funding application and so forth that's gone for the additional 15 beds that they applied for, but I believe we only got 9, so we'll find out more around that in the next meeting, hopefully.
Yep. Have a second of that report? Yep, Councillor Rolls, thank you. No other comments, councillors, on the reports?
I believe Steph Cook was taking that to
Parliament, yes, she signed
this
the
week.
document on the 20th. So yes, it looks really promising.
It looks very promising. We've all got our fingers crossed.
Yes.
It's something the community needed. I mean, the Grenfell NPS has been such a wonderful thing for us, and the idea that we can have an upgrades to it and increase the capacity of it, even by 9 beds, but they said that may be more as more in-depth research is done into it. Councillor Macon? Yes?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor White, in the health committee, do they discuss or that the improvements in terms of the insurance works that needs to be completed? Because obviously that hospital copped a lot of hail damage, and you can still see it from the road, this smashed solar heating, all that sort of stuff. You can take it on notice, you don't have to answer right this minute, but obviously I'm a regular visit to the NPS to visit my grandmother, and Max when he was alive there as well, and obviously walking up to the facade of the building where you enter into that main entrance, you look at the top of that building and it is atrocious. And obviously they might be waiting, we've all been waiting on insurance works like everyone else in town, so they could be in the same boat as that, but it just doesn't look like a welcoming place when you see damaged facades there, that for people that are visiting family, for whatever reason, to be, yeah. Just an update on that aspect.
Yeah, certainly. I'll take that on notice and I will bring, ask questions around that at the next meeting. But I only attended the very first meeting for myself. And in the previous minutes there, it goes back to October and December. I can't see anything in there regarding that, but I will take it on notice and give you some update next month.
But it's another good reason to get a new modern facility.
Oh, 100%.
Brand new modern.
All for it.
Modern facility. That'd be wonderful. I've only been to a couple of them. I haven't heard it mentioned. I think it's obviously within there, but not within the gambit of the actual this committee. But
yeah, obviously working with a large healthcare system with probably a lot of buildings and stuff that need to be upgraded and stuff like that. But obviously, when insurance should be implemented and starting the process at least should be done.
Yeah, still a community facility.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, thank you. So all those in favour of the noting that report, thank you, councillors. Yep, all those against, thank you. Next we've moved on to the 15, I think we're up to, if I skipped any. 15, page 354, 55, minutes of the committee meetings. So the minutes of the arts, the Australia Day Executive Committee, I think these ones are just for noting. I don't think there's any issues to be brought up in this. Do we have a move and a second for this? Do we note these reports? Councillor Rolls and Councillor Macon. Thank you very much. I don't think there's any comments on this. No comments, councillors? No, straightforward. Thank you very much for the committee, all the hard work they do. So all those in favour of noting that report? All right, and all those against? Thank you, councillors. And next. Yes, so next we move into... Yep, we move into closed council, councillors. So, councillors, I'll ask for a move and a second and move into closed council. We're going to move into closed council to consider the 16.1, the tender for the repair of hail damaged buildings. That's for council buildings, the scope of works 02. This matter is considered confidential under section 10A2 D1 of the Local Government Act. And council is satisfied that discussions of this matter in an open meeting would of balance be contrary to the public interest as it deals with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. So that's, yes, so we can actually obtain a council resolution on request for tenders for the repair of the hail damaged Weddin Shire buildings. Then we work on to 16.2, which is a council will evaluating a net waste tender for the collection and recycling of used motor oils, and we'll be seeking a resolution of council to the participating councils in the contract. This is also considered to be confidential under section 10A2 D1 of the Local Government Act, in that the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to public interest as it deals with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. So I have a move and a second. We move into closed council, please. Moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Macon. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you very much. You right to go? Thank you. Welcome everyone back from the closed council. During the closed council, councillors, there was a recommendation regarding the tender for repair of the hail damaged buildings for the Weddin Shire Council. The recommendation was that Council noted the report of the evaluation of tender submissions for the repair of the hail damaged Weddin Shire Council buildings. This was the scope of works 2. Council number 2 was to endorse the tender 43/2024 for the repair of hail damaged Weddin Shire Council buildings, scope of works 2, being awarded to Murphy's Remedial Builders Pty Ltd for the tendered price of $1,821,815.99. And 3, delegate that the General Manager be authorised to execute the contract and apply the Council seal on the relevant documentation. That was passed, and moved and seconded and passed. Council also, in closed council, discussed the net waste tender for the collection of recycling of used motor oil. The recommendation for that was that Council 1 notes the report on the evaluation of tender submissions for the collection and recycling of used motor oils. 2, that endorse the net waste tender F4287 for the collection and recycling of used motor oils being awarded to Sam's Waste Management for the pricing structure as set out in this report for the initial 2-year term, with an option of 2 12-month available extensions to that contract. 3, notes that as the existing contract expiry date was in 2024 and that has been surpassed, a new contract start date for the 2-year term will be advised by Net Waste upon endorsement from the Net Waste Steering Committee and then accepted by the host Orange City Council via a council meeting. And 4, we would like to delegate the General Manager to be authorised to execute the contract and apply the council seal on the relevant documentation for the collection and recycling of used motor oil. That was also passed by the council at this meeting. Thank you very much. That being said, I think that's all we do tonight. Thank you everyone for attending. We're a bit short on a few of the councils tonight due to various reasons, but thank you everyone. Thanks once again for all the staff that did the hard work doing that IPNR stuff. It's a lot of work, but it's really, I enjoy doing it. It's a great process, and it gets some really good insights of what the community actually wants. So thank you very much. So that being said, I'll have a move in a second. We close the council. Yeah, moved by Councillor Rolls, seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much. All those in favour of closing the council meeting? All right, all against? Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you to the community.